Oh man, we made it to episode 5, yo. Yo, peace. I hope everybody's good. In this episode, we get a little bit serious, real serious, actually, man. And I'm gonna talk about it. You'll see, and I gotta give somebody a shout out too. So, check it out. I hope you like it. We talk about depression. We talk about the Confederate, that show that's coming on HBO, and of course your favorite segment, how to approach women. Check it out. Yo, for this podcast, we sipping on the classic Guinness Stout. And for all of you that know that, that Irish stout, that, the classic joint. If you don't know, man, now you know. But for me, there's a story behind it, because, my folks are Dominican. So, like, coming up, it was, Heineken's and Presidente, right? Anyway, I was chilling when I was young. I was probably like 13, 14. And I used to be a messenger, and I used to hang out with these Jamaican cats. I think like 2 of them were Jamaican and 2 of them were Trinidadian. So West Indian cats is what I should say. So anyway, they were from Brooklyn, and like 2 of them were in the Decepticons. You know what I mean? For those of you, we're gonna talk about that later. We're gonna talk about the Decepticons in another episode. Anyway, they were like, yo, you should drink this, and it was Guinness Stout. And I never forget, it was mad cold, and I sipped that joint, and I was like, oh snap, this joint goes hard. Like, the taste and everything, like it like really, I think that's like the first time my taste buds were like blown up, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, yo, I could mess with this, man. So Guinness Stout is always my go-to, you know what I mean? Like, that's how I test if you a G or not. Like, if you hanging out with me and you drink, and I'm like, yo, you ever had this Guinness Stout? And it's crazy because you grow up in New York City, in the tri-state area, everybody had Guinness, you know what I mean? You hang out with West Indian cats, they all had Guinness. It's just like a given thing, you know what I mean? Also, like, cats from West Africa, since they were colonized by the British, they also had Guinness Stout, right? So anyway, I was like, oh, that's how I test cats. I thought, yo, you try this Guinness Stout, you know what I mean? And if they like it, then, we could ride. But if they don't, I'd be, looking at them type funny. So anyway, this one goes out to Guinness Stout. Where it's born. They ain't paying me for this. When you get a fresh haircut, like you come fresh out the barbershop, and then you go and wash your hair so you get all that excess hair out, you know what I'm saying? Everybody want to be nice to you. Everybody want to be your homie. Everybody want to give you extra stuff. Ladies want to give you the extra eye. Yo, what was that before I got the haircut? But yo, that's why it's crucial to find yourself a dope barber and get your hair done right. You know what I mean? Get that lineup, get that fresh lineup. That's why it's so crucial, man. Man, you might even get that job you interviewing for. Word is born. So yo, get yourself that dope barber. Shout out to Woke Dave. Woke Dave, where you at? Yo, I know for a lot of people, they're like, yo, what's the big deal, man? What's the big deal? Hey, yo, chill, man, chill. I am on iTunes now. Well, we are on iTunes, right? So go ahead and subscribe under Dan Tresomi, DANTRESOMI. I know I'm so lazy when it comes to the show notes. I hate typing up show notes, so I got to get into that. But go ahead and subscribe, man. Put in some comments, some reviews. Tell me to fuck off, whatever you need to do. But check it out. I hope you enjoy it. I appreciate it, man. I know for me it's a big deal. It might not be for you. So just giving you the heads up on that. Thank you so much for the support. Yes.
The name of the game is Light Works. Light up the slips. The name of the game is Light Works.
Since the news came out that Todd McFarlane of Image Comics fame and the creator of probably one of the dopest comics that came out in the 90s, Spawn, they're coming out with, I don't know if it's a remake or if it's a reboot or if it's a sequel to Spawn. I believe it's a reboot. I got to go look at it. But anyway, I remember that in the 90s, they actually came out with the movie Spawn, And in the 90s, Image Comics came out and just like kicked all kinds of asses. I mean, what happened was a lot of young writers and illustrators left Marvel like in mass. Todd McFarlane being one of them. He was at that time he was doing Spider-Man and Web of Spider-Man, which was a huge hit. You had Rob Liefeld was there as well. Jim Lee, all those guys, all those young guys, they left Marvel and they started Image. And Image they had some really dope ideas and so dope concepts, but they were plagued by so many things. Anyway, that's beside the point. Todd McFarlane made a ton of money making all this merchandise from Image Comics. And he decided to make a movie on Spawn, his character. And it was actually a unique character, and he was actually black, which was a big deal, which for some reason a lot of people just overlooked. And I think it's because, he is killed, he goes to hell, he comes back, and his face is like all tore up. It's kind of like all like, and it's like stitched in the front to keep his face together. So, and his skin is gone. So it's like people always seem to forget that he was actually a black man who was killed. Anyway, he does the movie. Movie has a great cast, right? It has Michael J. White, who's an amazing martial artist and stuntman, right? It had Martin Sheen, who at that time, he didn't really have a lot of stuff out, but it's freaking Martin Sheen, right? And then you had John Leguizamo. John Leguizamo played the Violator, who's probably like one of my favorite villains out of the Image universe. And Martin Sheen played the other villain, Jason Wynn. So like who got Spawn killed, and that's how he became Spawn, right? So it had a pretty dope cast, but it flopped. And it's one of those movies that if you look at it today, it definitely doesn't stand the test of time. Like, and it was bad for several reasons, right? And it had a pretty big budget. I think it was like 50 million, 60 million, something like that. I could be wrong. Anyway, I did check Rotten Tomatoes on it. Rotten Tomatoes gets 18% rating. And I know Rotten Tomatoes is hardcore, but if you get like an 18% rating, like you're not going to want to look at it. But I recommend looking at it, especially if you were someone who was born in the 90s and probably doesn't remember. You should go watch that. I actually went to the movie theater to see this with a bunch of friends. Anyway, I think one of the first problems they had was that it was an ambitious project, right? And I don't know if it was one of those things where they had planned on making it like a trilogy, because the Spawn at that time, Spawn was several issues in, and then they had a Showtime show. I think it was on Showtime. They had a cable series, and which was great. The cable series was amazing. It was animated, but it was really, really dope. I do believe that DC takes a lot of its cues for its animated animated department. I think they get their cues from Spawn, because there's a lot of dope stuff in it. So the Showtime series is actually very, very good. If you get a chance to watch, I don't even think it's on Netflix, but if you could cop the DVD somewhere, I highly recommend it. I had that on VHS as well, Lord. Anyway, they try to put a lot of story into that movie. Now, mind you, it's very difficult to do an origin story and then have enough action for the moviegoers in one show. That's a very difficult thing to do. I'm going to say that right away. A lot of superhero movies fall off, they like because of that, right? This is a difficult thing to do. So here there is, and Spawn's origin is very complicated, right? Here's a guy who worked for the CIA or something like that, and he does all these. I don't like to say black ops because that's racist, right? He does a lot of what they call that stuff. Wet works, right? He does a lot of wet work. So he does a lot of dirty killing that you don't know about, assassinations, torture, all that stuff. And eventually he's set up and killed, right? Now, before he's married, right? He's married to this woman that he loves so much, and she wants to have a baby so bad, but he just couldn't give her this baby. Like, they tried left ways, right ways, and they just couldn't. So he ends up being killed. And when he goes to hell, of course, he's going to go to hell, right? I mean, the guy's done all this kind of horrific stuff before. He goes to hell. He goes down there and he makes a deal with not really the devil, but this being called Malbolgia. It's supposed to be kind of like, I'm going to say like a baron of hell. Like you have the devil, you have Lucifer, and then he has like barons. So Malbolgia is like this baron. Anyway, he makes a pact with him. I want to go back. I want to see my wife. I want to be back with her. And he says, okay, you can do that, but you have to become one of my lieutenants when we have the fight against heaven, right? So you're going to be one of my lieutenants. I'm going to give you all this power. So he does send them back. And of course, Malbolgia is a demon. You can't trust him. He sends them back like 2.5, 3 years into the future, where his wife is now remarried. And actually she married his best friend and has a kid by him. So not only does, it's like a double whammy. He gets tricked to sell his soul, but his wife is not married. She has what she always wanted, a kid with his best friend. So it's a very complicated, which probably makes the comic book series so good, and it makes the TV series so good, right? Because he didn't get what he wants. So it's kind of like, and he still sold the soul. So it's really dope, and that's a hard dynamic to put into a movie. So I think that was the number one problem. So that adds to the screenwriting, which is the number two problem. The screenwriting was horrible. Number three, the supporting cast, even though you had Martin Sheen, John Leguizamo, and they did their thing, everybody else sucked. Like everybody else sucked, with the exception of I can't remember who played his wife. She's pretty good, but she wasn't given enough lines. Anyway, so that was it. And then finally, the CGI was hard. And I know it was the 90s. So back then, all CGI was horrid, which is why people stayed away from CGI. The technology hadn't been mastered yet, but that was the problem. So just to give you a heads up, that's why that movie sucked. If you don't have to watch it now because I gave you a review, but I recommend watching it. Word is bond. Somebody asked me to talk about depression and natural remedies. Now, I'm going to veer off and get real serious. And this one's going to be pretty long. So bear with me. I'm going to do two separate segments, one on quote unquote natural remedies and one on depression. This was going to be about depression. If you want to fast forward to this, you can. I know for a lot of people, this could be triggering. Some people might not like what I talk about. Some people might be offended. And I understand that. I definitely understand that. But I do want to talk about it. First, I do recommend listening to Tea with Q and J, that podcast. It's really dope. And Jay and the Queen, they really have several episodes where they discuss depression, and they really get to the heart of the matter. Again, it's not all encompassing, but I feel like they really deal with it really well. And I know for a lot of us, it's a deep subject because many of us suffer from it. And the crazy thing about it is that there are people that we know and love that suffer from it, and we might not know that they do. And then there are a lot of people who suffer from it, have never been diagnosed with it. So that's why when people say stuff that's really, that's why it's offensive, because there are people that we know and love that have it, and we defend them. And then there are people that have it, they don't know it. And then on top of that, there are people that have it, and they don't want nobody else to know it. And that's really the part that gets real, that really people really get upset about. And again, so if you want to fast forward it because it might be triggering for you, I don't get mad. If you get mad, I understand. You can keep going, and I get that. I gave you the chance to do it now. Okay. Now, I have met people, myself included, that suffer from depression, and some of us do not take any kind of meds for it, right? For several reasons, I don't know why, we do. Then again, and I'm gonna talk about it in natural remedies part. I'm the type of person that I really don't like taking medication, period. Not because a lot of it is paranoia. A lot of it is, I'd rather just not. I don't like taking medication. But if I have to, I'll take it. Like if a doctor tells me I have to take it for whatever reason, I will take it. And I'm gonna talk about that natural remedy section. Anyway, I don't know what my triggers are for these bouts of depression. Some people do. I don't know what my triggers are. They just happen. So I could be having a great, wonderful couple of weeks, and then it's just, boom, crash, right? So some people know the triggers, and some people don't know the triggers, and there's that, right? So I can see people taking medication because they don't know what the trigger is going to be. They don't know, right? While there are people that I know that they know what their triggers are, and they will tell you, like, these are my triggers, and I know it's coming, and they can tell you, they can give you a calendar, and they can tell you when they're up and when they're down. So, and that's them, and not everybody can do that. There are some people who need medication. I know that sounds crazy, right? But some people need it, and I've had people tell me, "Oh, Dip, my medication ran out. I haven't had time to go pick up a refill. I need my medication." And you know what? They know themselves better than me. So, and then number two, I'm not a doctor. So who am I to say you don't need one, you don't need medication, or you do need medication? But I know I've had people tell me I missed my refill, I need to get it, or there's going to be some stuff, right? And then there are people who take their medication. They don't like taking it, right? And you know what? I have met people who have been misdiagnosed, or they've been given a prescription that was too strong, right? So, that's why I kind of like leave that stuff alone. I try not to debate it because, number one, we don't know people's experiences. And it's real easy for us to say, well, I have it, you should be able to do this. Or my man had it, right? Because I have a friend of mine who has it really bad, and he doesn't take any medication. And he might say, oh, you need I don't take medication, so you shouldn't. Or I might say, oh, you need to take medication because X, Y, Z. But I'm not a doctor, number one. And number two, I don't know that person's experience with it. I don't know what their triggers are. I don't know what experiences they had that led them to that particular place. So I try to stay out of it. I just listen to people and they know themselves. Are there some people that have been misdiagnosed? Yes. Are there some doctors who overprescribe? Yes, that is true. But again, I don't have the credentials to say you're doing it wrong, you're doing it right. So to each his own. So what I do is I listen. I try to be encouraging. If somebody tells me what their triggers are, I try to do things that don't get them triggered. Or when they're going through it, I ask them, what do you need me to, what can I do to improve your quality of life? That's one thing that I learned about these things. So what can I do to improve your quality of life? And a lot of them might just say, leave me the hell alone. And I do just that. So that's how it is. I'll probably bring it up again. But again, that's, we should have this discussion. And if you're listening to this with your folks, please have that discussion. Thank you again for that suggestion. Peace. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about natural remedies. I know that's also a touchy subject, right? A very touchy subject. Now, let me just tell you where I'm coming from, right? I used to be a person that was all about natural remedies, right? I was that parent that didn't get my children vaccinated. I was that person that was like, don't take no medication for nada. Push through the pain. Do this, do that. Eat this, eat that. Drink this, drink that. Any new thing that came down the pike, I was on it, right? I was ahead of it. This is in the 90s too. So I would attend lectures on it. You know what I mean? I think the person who I had all the time was Dr. Layla Africa's African Holistic Health. It's a big fat book, man. I had that joint, and that was my Bible, man. You couldn't tell me nothing, man. So that's how I got down. So I was a vegan too. I was like a vegetarian for like 4 years, and I was like a vegan for 8. So I've been there. I've done that. You know what I mean? So I got that, right? So when cats be coming down the pike and they be beating me on the head, I'm like, yo, son, chill. Like, I know where you're coming from, right? So let's just tell you I'm on that side, right? And I've contributed to anthologies and stuff on. I talked about that. I used to lecture on it. So, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I'm all about taking care of yourself, right? But let me just say this, and I know everybody's watching that documentary on Netflix, What the Health. So everybody's running, What the Health. So everybody's running around like, rah, 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 rah. This is the only way to go. Vegan is the only way to go. But I'm going to tell you, like I said in that video, you don't have to have a vegan diet to live healthy. Let me repeat that. You don't have to have a vegan diet to be healthy. All right. Now, the key is, here's the key. Here's the keys right here. I'm going to give it to you for free. And it's something that anybody that has a doctor in front of their name will tell you, right? Preventative is better than taking the medication for it, right? Meaning, eat a balanced diet, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, make sure you have a lot of vegetables in your diet, fruits, that also means stay away from unhealthy foods, stay away from fast foods. That shit is not good for you, right? Your meat consumption shouldn't be a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't be doing barbecues 4 or 5 days a week. You know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. Like, stay away from soda and drinks with high fructose corn syrup, right? Drink plenty of water and get exercise, at least 30 minutes a day. You know what I mean? And that could be walking, and then also find joy in your life. You know what I mean? Find joy. A lot of us work 9 to 5s, 5 to 8s, got kids, bills and all that. And sometimes we don't find joy. Find joy, man. Get rid of unnecessary stress. You do those things, man, you could pretty much live a long life, man. You really could, right? At the same time, what I see happening is when somebody gets a disease or they have a chronic illness, you have people that come around acting like they're experts. Well, eat this, eat that. Soursop takes away cancer. You know what I'm saying? This causes cancer. This is that. If you have diabetes, you should do this, right? You should eat 3 cloves of garlic a day. Like, cats be coming up with all this crazy stuff. And the first thing I ask them is, do you know anybody or have you done these things to fix that same situation? That's the first thing I ask them. Shout out to Supreme Understanding who taught me that. So if you're like, if you eat soursop, it'll take away cancer. Well, show me someone this has worked for. Don't be like my cousin's aunt's sister, baby mama, daddy's father's cousin's best friend who he was locked up with in jail, little cousin. This is how it worked. No. I want you to be like, my aunt took this right here. Here she is. She was pre-cancer. Here's after eating soursop. So do that, right? A lot of us say if you eat this, like, for example, echinacea pills, right? People say if you take echinacea, you will never get sick. You know what I'm saying? First of all, there's no studies that prove that. Let's just put that out there right now. There are no peer-reviewed, longitudinal studies that are published in a medical journal that says if you eat 1 pill of echinacea a day, you Gucci. Nowhere does it say that, right? And don't get me wrong, the medical insurance complex, all that, they out to get you. That's not even on no conspiracy theory stuff, right? They out to get you. They'd rather have you sick all the time and prescribe all this expensive medication. That is a fact, right? But at the same time, some people do need this medication. Some people do need it. Some people do need to take high blood pressure medicine. Some people need it. Some people do need to take insulin for their diabetes. They need it, right? And we know that people who don't take it, they die, right? Or some people that take it, they get a heart attack. We know that. We know this, right? That doesn't mean that you should live a healthy lifestyle. You should. You should strive for it. But we should be careful with people running around saying this is going to fix that and this is going to fix this. And if you become a vegan, you won't ever get cancer. That is not true. That is not true. Cancer don't work like that. There are some things that'll give you higher risks of cancer. Don't get me wrong, right? There are some things like environments. There are some foods that will give you a higher risk, but it doesn't guarantee you're going to get cancer. And there's lifestyles that don't guarantee that you won't get cancer. So we need to be real careful. We need to pay attention. We need to do the research, right? Because in that documentary, there's a lot of pseudoscience. There's a lot of pseudoscience, There's a lot of sensationalism. There's a lot of stuff that they say that is not true. I didn't watch it, and it's not because I don't want to watch it. It's because I just watch so much stuff. I have my queue is like mad long, and I just have but little time. But I'm gonna watch it, and I'll probably do a review on it. So stay tuned for that. And I'll probably continue this segment later on. Again, for that one person that sent me the suggestion, here it is. And again, I don't try to tell people what not to take, what not to do. I do some personal training on the side. I do teach capoeira and breakdancing. So like a lot of people come to me for advice. I have trained with people and helped them lose weight. I have helped people bring their running times down when they needed to, sign up for the service, the military service or whatever. I've done that before. I help people lose weight. I help people feel a lot better about themselves. So I'm not an expert. You know what I'm saying? I just know that the key is just living a healthy lifestyle, making those good habits something that you're going to have for the rest of your life. The reason why I get down the way I do is because I've been doing it for decades. And that takes a lot of work. So, and it's literally a lifestyle. So there's no magic bullet that's going to help you lose weight automatically. That's going to take away diabetes. Nothing. It's a consistent, holistic lifestyle that you got to do. But again, like I said earlier, I'm somebody that's like, when I got a headache, I don't take aspirin. Right, because I feel like a headache is a signal that's being told to your body saying you need to do something. It might be lack of rest, right? It might be you didn't drink enough water, et cetera, et cetera. I know for myself, there was a time when I used to get migraines all the time. And what happened was at one time, they wanted me to take 3 different medications, and those medications made me feel some type of way. So I didn't want to do that. Plus, it was just complicated. So I learned that the problem was I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was functioning on 4 hours of sleep a night. And that is super duper unhealthy. That is an aneurysm or heart attack on the way. So I had to change that. So there you have it. If you have any questions, again, at Omi's Podcast or at DanTrez Omi on Twitter. Thank you so much again.
as I come back. Bullets for best don't leak like Aquafina trash, nigga. These shots will swell you bigger than Katina ass, nigga. Got couple left for opio and A+. Watch how the gauge bust as I come back. Hey, Bobolina, Mr. Bob Dobalina ass nigga. Back to get quicker and then I spit him at.
So I asked this kid, our offspring, remember that. These are our offspring. And some of you parents ain't holding it down. We're watching The Shining, the classic movie starring Jack Nicholson, right? So I asked this young man sitting next to me, what seminal 90s hip hop group from New York City named their debut album The Shining, and he didn't know. He didn't know that Smith & Wesson of the hip hop collective Boot Camp Clique named their first album The Shining. And they spelled the D-A-H, not the T-H-E. Yo, what are we doing? How are we raising our kids? Is this what we're doing? We're raising a generation of kids that don't know classic 90s underground hip hop. What's wrong with y'all people?
This is a man's world, but it would be nothing without. This is a man's world.
Part 3, QVC, zip line McCarthy. Heavy on the list, you blink my ice ring. John Lee Green, yeah, that's strong. Part 3, QVC, zip line McCarthy.
So here we are, everybody's favorite segment, how to approach women. Now, last couple episodes, we did the prelims, and in episode 4, we went ahead and dove right in and introduced ourselves, right? So now that you've introduced yourself, you broke the ice, and this is probably going to be one of the hardest parts of doing this at this point in time, at this juncture, and that is keeping that young lady's attention, right? You got to keep her attention. And that's where you got to work on your conversational skills. And this is where a lot of people fail after, usually a lot of men, they fail. It's just the initial introduction. But I think the rest, it's a lot of it's because a lot of us are scared. Because a lot of us, when it comes to conversation, we just don't have it. And that's just everybody in general. So I'm going to branch off in the next couple of episodes of Where My Killa Tape At, when we talk about how to approach women. We're going to talk about how to become a conversationalist. So I'm going to branch off on that. But before I branch off on that, I just want to add on to this. A lot of people debate on whether they should try to keep it quote unquote safe, right? To stay away from religious topics and political topics and things of that nature, right? I don't believe that. I'd rather you, in an initial conversation, I'd rather you come up front with how you feel about certain things. That way I know I ain't got to waste my time. And I believe women feel the same way, right? If you're an asshat, if you're a homophobe, if you're a sexist, if you're a transphobe, if you're a racist, et cetera, it's best that you come straight out. That way we know. I think that's across the board. I think everybody feels that way. So I don't believe in staying away from safe topics. I just don't think you should go overboard with it, right? If you're all about saving the whales, it's so cool. It's okay to mention it, but don't beat that person over the head with it. That's my rule, because if you're passionate about something, then that's fine. Just don't beat them over the head. If you're passionate about going to church on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, that's cool. Just don't beat that person over the head with it. And that's what you should do when you have these conversations. I also recommend keeping it simple, keeping it straight to the point. Don't get on the soapbox. Just, hey, how you doing? My name is so-and-so. It's a beautiful day. I know we're waiting. The bus is late as usual. I wish the MTA, et cetera, et cetera. Just try to keep it simple, to the point. Keep them interested, but don't level off. Listen, right? You want to listen, right? So if they say something, listen to it, respond to it properly, or, ask for some time. So just pretty much having a conversation. So this is going to end this segment on how to approach women. Next week, we're going to actually try to shift it and talk about how to become a conversationalist. All right. Thanks again, everybody. See you next week. Of course, I got to do shout outs. First of all, shout out to Science with Steph of the Dope Science Show, which is actually a dope science show. How cool does that title sound? Dope Science Show. I wish I could change mine to the Dope Science Show, but check her out. It's on iTunes. She's also on Instagram, so check her out. And then shout out to my man DJ Skano. Y'all might know him, y'all might not know him. That's my dude. He's kicking the grandfather stuff now. He's the granddad. So yo, that's dope. Life is a good thing, brother. Appreciate it and love it. I know you do. I see you smiling, and that's a dope thing. It's a beautiful thing, man. We love and we send light to you, man. Word. And then, of course, to the Twist Cupcakery here in Dayton, Ohio. They bring so much joy to my life and that of my students. I really appreciate that. And then one more person, the homie Sheree. She's the one that gave some of these ideas for some of these segments. So I definitely got to give her a shout out. Like, yo, she'd be like, you need to talk about this and that. So she has a lot of ideas. So a lot of them come from her. So, yo, thank you for that. Word is born. Once again, another show. I know this one is a little bit longer than usual. I appreciate all of y'all that have been listening, liking, subscribing, sending love, sending the DMs, all that stuff, giving me ideas. Just really, I've been getting just a lot of love, man. And I appreciate that, man. So this is episode 5. I think they're going to get a little bit longer, maybe 5 to 6 minutes longer. But again, we're on iTunes. If you need to send a shout out to me, you could do it 2 ways on Twitter. You can either go to @DanTrezOmi or @Omi's Podcast. I know I'm lazy with the show notes. I apologize for that. I'm going to start doing better on that. But thanks again. If you want to check me out again, I'm on iTunes now. We on iTunes now. So you guys take it easy. Peace.